How are we doing again? Uh, so, I think for my first video, what I'm really going to be looking at is something that I think the basics of every type of survival channel should be doing is what fundamentals they live off of. So one of the things that most people that are that have any interest in survival look at is the 4 pillars of survival, and that's food, water, shelter, fire. Now, obviously, that can be extrapolated into a lot of things. Obviously, water is you need clean drinking water. Food, you need something that's going to sustain you. Shelter, you need something that's going to shelter you. Now, shelter is kind of one of those ones that changes depending on your environment. Obviously, if you're in a moderately temperate zone like I am, where it's just starting to cool down, then you could get away with a lot less of a shelter than if you're like up in the Northwest, where it rains every other day. It's closing in on November now, it's closing in on Thanksgiving now, so we're going to start getting issues with snow soon and stuff like that, and you've got to keep that in mind. And then, of course, obviously, man's first invention of fire, and we use that for heat, food, all the other essentials. And then, of course, there's just the comfort level. I mean, fire is one of those things where it's naturally comforting to us to sit back and bask in its warmth and have it cook our food, and it gives us that reassurance that our water is safe to drink. There's a lot of different fundamentals of that. But what I figured I would actually try is list off my own fundamentals for this channel, and I think I have it down to 3, as a matter of fact. Now, this isn't to be confused with the 4 pillars of survival, because that's not going to change. That's, everybody has a basic need for food, water, shelter, and fire. But what it is the 3 things, the 3 essentials of survival. And I think we start off with the most important one, which is emotional fortitude, emotional toughness, if you will. It's basically the desire to live, the will to go on. If you don't have that, then pretty much anything else that you're going to be doing in a survival situation is going to be worthless. Okay. Some people call it the human condition, or motivation, or gumption, or any other list of things. But really, what it is just that desire, that drive to just keep going. Okay, and you have to have that positive mental attitude in order to actually survive any situation. It doesn't matter what it is. You can be in the middle of the desert, you can be in the middle of the rainforest, you can be stranded 50 miles away from town on a hiking trip. Okay, if you don't have that will to survive, then chances are you're not going to survive. The second one that I've come up with is intellectual knowledge. And that also has a fairly large range. It's any type of knowledge that you would have pertaining to surviving. So, there we go. Any knowledge that you have pertaining to surviving, like basic first aid. If you're on a hiking trip, First aid is definitely important. If somebody falls and breaks their leg, then obviously it's better to know how to immobilize it and make sure that they're not like bleeding internally to make sure that they survive. So that's one aspect of it. It can also be something as simple as, picking a lock or starting a fire or, knowledge of pretty much anything. Like literally the skills that you obtain during your life can very easily be transferred over to survival situations. Like, I'm pretty sure that somebody like, Bear Grylls probably knows 15, 16 different ways to how to start a fire. Okay? Is that going to stop him from carrying around a lighter? Probably not. Okay? And the reason why is just because you know how to do that doesn't mean that you always want to put yourself in that situation. So it's also, not only is it intellectual knowledge, but it's also common sense. So in any situation where you would have like a bug out bag or anything like that, there's another rule of three that preppers and survivalists use, which is usually 3 equals 1 and 1 equals none. And what that means is you want to have at least 3 different ways of doing something in your bug out bag. Okay? You can have a Fresnel lens, flint and steel, a ferro rod, stuff like that in your bug out bag to start a fire. But that's still not going to stop you from having that trusty old Bic in there as well. Okay, and usually you would go off of what would be the easiest way to do that in this situation. And common sense is a wonderful thing to have. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people just don't have it anymore. Which is one thing that is part of that mentality that is a good thing to have in any type of survival situation. And the last one is kind of like an all-encompassing, but it's the physical supplies that you would need to survive in the situation that you're in. So obviously I would need different physical supplies if I was on a hiking trip than I would if I was camping in my yard. I would need different physical supplies if I was up in the Northeast or the Northwest. A great example would be the show on History Channel Alone. They give you that pack and then you get 10 items of your choice, and the object is to survive longer than the other contestants. Okay? It's your job to try to pack for the situation that you think you're going to be in over the other contestants. And I've seen some embarrassing situations on that one. Guy lost his ferro rod like day one and ended up having to call to get rescued. You have the other guys that somehow manages to, like, the first week take down a musk ox and survive full 100 days without too much of a problem. I think he was actually the only contestant to gain weight while he was in a survival situation. But those things right there are the things that you would need. So in order of importance, you have emotional fortitude, you have intellectual knowledge, and then you have your physical supplies. Now, lack of physical supplies can be counteracted by your intellectual knowledge, the skills that you've learned, and your will to survive. Okay? Obviously, it would be nice to be able to have, a portable shelter wherever you go, whether it be a hammock with an underquilt and a bug net or a rain fly or, a tent. Everybody wants a portable log cabin that they can just yank out of their pocket and set up when they're going hiking. But obviously that's not the case. in those situations, having the knowledge to be able to put up a shelter to keep yourself dry is incredibly important. But having the emotional fortitude to desire that will to survive is still going to trump that. You have got to actually want to be alive. You actually want to stay alive in order to get back to the things that you actually care for, whether that be family, friends, pets, you know, the primary thing there is you actually have to have a reason for living, okay? And it doesn't have to be a great one. Like, yeah, very easy thing. I actually had a friend at one point in time that was clinically suicidal, and his sole reason for living was to outlive the people that he didn't like. And I mean, while it's not a great excuse, it kept him around, and it kept that drive in him to get up every day and go to work, to get up every day and stay healthy. And it was like, you know, it's one of the pettiest reasons I've ever seen of somebody staying alive. But at the same time, you know, he was one of my best friends. I loved him for it. Just because he had that, he found a reason and stuck with it. And to this day, he's still one of my best friends. And I would love to take him out into some of these survival situations that I can get myself into, just to be able to train him on some of the things that could conceivably happen. Like, you know, we're always a matter of weeks away from government shutdown or martial law or any of the other things that are just ridiculous in thought, but it's literally just a matter of time before society as we know it's going to collapse. Now, I'm not like a conspiracy theorist, but at the same time, you know, the writing's been on the wall for decades. There's pretty much anything that you look at, like in a future scenario, it's never a utopian future. It's always dystopian. So, like, even on a good note that we've survived another 50 years, you look back into that extra 50 years and we've got like population crisis or economic crisis or, you know, just any number of things. And being able to be prepared for that kind of stuff is comforting in its own right. Okay, so I think that's going to be the foundation of this channel. And the big thing that we're going to be focusing on is that level 2, that intellectual knowledge, training for skills. That's something that I'm going to be doing a lot of. Whereas I might get into the physical supplies, but one thing that I just want to be stuck in your head if you're going to be following my channel is that only you can actually give yourself the emotional fortitude to survive in any situation. But on that note, I'm out. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy the rest of nature.